Okay, so we start now. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining again, and Happy New Year to everyone. This is We Analytics Tableau user group, and we are so excited to see you again. And we have amazing speakers, including me. Rest of the speakers we definitely gonna introduce as well. So, what makes this tag a bit different? Yes, it's analytics tag, and it's all about analytics. It's taking place virtually every month. I know most of you know this, and you are always there to attend this particular Tableau user group. That's why we are famous. And make sure to subscribe us if you haven't. Also, Annabelle has already put the next event link, so you can do that as well. Okay, so our tag leaders. First, we have Annabelle Rincon. She is flying through the globe, enjoying life. We have Chimdi, who is a database designer at Westside Analytics. And this is me, Prasann, who is data visualization manager at Emirates NBD. About Annabelle, she is a Tableau visionary and ambassador. You can go to her blog, lots of good material to go through and learn about how she has actually used Tableau, lots of mathematics as well. You might find it there. And she worked as a Tableau enablement and analytics lead and currently available for hire. You can grab her if you would like still you have the time. And she discovered Tableau 10 years ago and fell in love. Immediately, she has 6 VOTDs and also co-leads enablement and data plus women webinar. She loves baking, and most probably she is gonna bring some pastries to this coming TC. So you got to find her and dig those pastries, and you should check out the YouTube channel as well. You can just take a screenshot for now, and then you can scan and register as well there. And then we have it's me. Uh, I love Tableau. I have a couple of initiatives that I've been running. That's Tableau Buddy and BizDyna. I started using Tableau in 2020, and I am currently working as a manager data visualization. I have I love writing content on social media, and that's how great community over the easy years. And I have four VOTDs: cats, food, and anime. I just love all these three, and my Tableau people, of course. And then we have our superstar Chimdi, who is also a Tableau visionary and ambassador, and he's doing freelance and contract data visualization for clients in many industries via his venture with Site Analytics. He fell in love and went all in 2020 with Tableau. 16 VOTDs. Maybe it has increased. I don't know. He hasn't edited the numbers yet. So, and he co-leads Make on Monday. I bet most of you know about this. Very, I would say, most of us started our career with Make on Monday, and he also participates alongside other challenges to improve and share with the data fam. And he's a strong believer of functional aesthetics. He's a whiz junkie and enjoys documentaries and working out. Do you like running as well? I've started running, so that's why I'm asking.
I do like sprint drills, so like not long
Mhm.
distance, but like high intensity stuff. So it's yes,
Ah,
yeah, I
nice.
love that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so some ground rules you can interact. Yeah, I think you already know. I don't need to put this up. Please have those interactions out there in the chat section. If you have questions, please do use the Q&A because questions might just, we wouldn't be able to find it. And the session is being recorded, so no need to scribble down, take notes, just enjoy and have fun. And that's it. I'll hand it over to Chimdi now.
Awesome. Thanks, Prasann. So as mentioned, we've got a great session for you today. We've already done the intro, and now we're going to bring in our speakers. First, we got Chris, who is going to talk to us about the power of level of detail expressions, a very powerful tool in Tableau. So I bet that's going to be interesting and informative. Prasann, who we know very well, is going to talk to us about KPI cards, simple math layers. So again, the KPI is a standard foundational part of dashboarding, and that session is going to give us some more flexibility in how we build this out, to be more robust. So again, another beautiful technical session. And then Doc Kevin is going to talk to us about the first step, in building dashboards, which is basically whether or not we can see the data. So that's the talk that's going to be about accessibility and dashboard development and why that's super important. So a lot of, topics that go really well together, and I'm excited to see what we got going today. So for our first speaker today, we are going to have Chris. Chris is very seasoned, so we're lucky to have him. He's got more than 30 years of experience in designing, leading, building, and implementing full cycle business analytics, including predictive analytics, so like the next level stuff. He currently works as a director of analytics consulting at Concentrix, and he's got a focus on building and solutioning Salesforce products like Tableau, Data Cloud, the stuff that we're kind of used to. And he founded Precision Analytics to improve the productivity of the clients through a combination of optimizing data analytics, data blending, comprehensive reporting, basically everything to help them deliver successful analytics solutions. Today, he's going to talk to us about the power of LOD expressions in Tableau. And so, again, that's something that I think that we're all going to benefit from with respect to building out these products. And I'm going to pass it up to Chris now to get us into the good stuff that we're waiting for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, indeed. It's great. It's an honor to be here. Let me go ahead and start sharing my fun stuff. Let's start off with some slides, and then we're going to go into workbooks, and I'll break these down. The first thing I always say when you get into learning something like LODs, you'll either have like the fear of God put into you, or you'll be like, okay, this is awesome. So we're going to get you into the awesome boat here for a minute. So I'm going to share, go share this guy. And then I will come here to make sure that all is well. Can you see my screen? Everything good?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So let me tell you, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I am also the leader of, co-leader of the Black and Data Tableau user group, as well as the Portland Tableau user group, which is funny because I'm based out of Laguna Beach, California. But I lived in Portland for 8 years, so I keep that up. So I've been an ambassador for about 4 years now. It's really, again, it's an honor to be here. So before we get into anything technical, I want to start with a feeling that most of us have had. At some point in Tableau, you built a view that looked right, but the numbers were wrong, or they were right until you added one more dimension, or filter, or date. That frustration usually is the moment people first hear of level of detail expressions. And for many people, that's also the moment Tableau suddenly feels complicated. So today is about changing that. My goal is to take LOD expressions out of the advanced wizardry section and turn them into something practical, understandable, and genuinely useful. By the end of the session, I want you to walk away thinking, oh, that's it? I can actually use this. Not just to pass a certification, but to also solve real problems at work. So here's how we're going to spend our time together. First, we're going to talk about what LOD expressions actually are in plain language and not documentation language. Then we're going to look at why LOD matters. What kind of business problems are they designed to solve? Then after that, I'll introduce the 3 types of LOD expressions, walk through the syntax, and show how they differ. Then we'll spend the bulk of our time on a Tableau workbook showing each of these 3 types, okay? Because LODs really, I can give you all the slides you want, and you can have the slide deck if you want me to present that to you. But LODs really don't make sense until you actually get into the workbook and really see the syntax and see the numbers differ. And then finally, we'll do as much Q as I can. I've told everybody at work to leave me alone. So do not disturb throughout, but I may have some fires that I might need to deal with, but I will answer as many questions as I possibly can. Okay, so by default, Tableau is very literal. It calculates values based on exactly what you put in the view. If you show sales by month, it calculates by month. If you add customer, it recalculates by customer and month. If you add region, everything changes again. So that's powerful, but also limiting, because sometimes the business question isn't what are the sales at this level of the chart? It's what is the total per customer, regardless of how I slice this view? What is the average order size per account, even when I'm looking by product? And what is the true lifetime value, no matter how I filter the dates? LOD expressions let you tell Tableau, I know it's in the view, but calculate this at this level instead. You're separating how the data is displayed from how the data is calculated. That's the real superpower. So without LOD expressions, most of us end up doing one of three things: creating duplicate worksheets, writing overly complex table calculations, or accepting numbers that are close enough. All three of these options are fragile. They break when filters change, they confuse other developers on your team, potentially, and they create maintenance nightmares. LOD expressions gives you a stable foundation. They let you define business logic once, clearly, intentionally, and correctly, and reuse it everywhere. That's the key. Like once you define your LOD, you can literally put it anywhere that makes sense within your workbook or your project, because they always hold the same value. And that's really, one of the things that when I first started learning level of detail, that was something I leaned on heavily. I had some use cases that I was just getting frustrated playing around with view, and I was just like, okay, fine, I'm just going to define it all. And once you get to that use case where you know what you want to do and you figure out what the LOD command is, it'll make your life a lot easier. So that's the difference between I hope this dashboard still works and I trust this dashboard. So if we're going to break down these importance of the command, so think of precision as they enable precise control over the level of detail in your calculations, ensuring accuracy in your analysis. Look at customation. They allow you to create custom aggregations tailor-made for your specific analytic needs. You're looking at the granularity. Provide the ability to analyze data at different granularities, which is crucial for dealing with not just simple, but also, more importantly, very complex data sets. Enhanced control. If you look at this, they offer greater control on how dimensions filter and affect. Dimensions and filters affect your visualizations, giving you fine-grained control. But last but not least, LODs give you the ability to uncover hidden patterns and insights within your data, leading to more informed decision-making. We all have our requirements, right? So you look at it's not just the requirements, the primary requirements that you're solving. LODs give the ability to look at those secondary and tertiary questions that you haven't thought of, but will expose some answers to some questions that are coming. So think of it that way. It's a little bit of a foreshadowing type of thing too. When teams adopt LOD expressions properly, a few things happen. Dashboards become simpler, calculations become reusable, performance often improves, and most importantly, support tickets go down. The last thing we want as a developer is to deploy something and people question what it is that you're doing and they can't understand it, and you get a support ticket and then those stack up and then they end up in your queue and you want to take 3 weeks off of vacation not to deal with them anymore. So that's not going to happen now. So, but the biggest change really is trust. Executives stop asking, why did this number change? Analysts stop second guessing themselves. And suddenly your dashboard become tools, decision tools. it's all about adoption. So when you produce something and produce numbers, whether it be a dashboard or LODs within your dashboard, your stakeholders are looking for confidence that those numbers are correct. And so LOD expressions give you that confidence as you define what your dashboard is doing. Therefore, everybody stops questioning. They understand how this calculation is and works and was built, and they can rely on that and then make decisions based off of that. Because ultimately, when we build our dashboards or anything, we want to make sure we have company or organizational trust in whatever you build. That's how adoption gets created. That's how, honestly, we have our jobs longer and so forth. So you have 5 points over here. Precision in data analysis allows for precise control of the granularity in a calculation. So this is particularly valuable when you need to isolate specific dimensions or data points to answer complex analytical questions. The custom aggregations allows you to create aggregations that are not possible with standard Tableau calculations. LOD expressions enable you to include, exclude specific dimensions in your calculations, which I'm going to get into, giving you the flexibility to tailor your analyses based on your specific needs. You can also do for enhanced control. It gives you greater control of how dimensions affect your visualizations. You can define exactly which dimensions should be considered in your particular calculation, allowing for more focused analysis as well. Efficiency and simplification. This simplifies your complex calculation, makes them more efficient. It can reduce the need for creating numerous calculated fields, which when I first started doing, before I got into LODs, and before I broke my own walls of understanding what LODs would do, I would write these long calculations or have multiple fields or something. And I'm just like, okay, I can't keep doing this. This is not efficient. It's a maintenance nightmare. Let me just get into this and figure out what's going on. And that's what this really is about. And then lastly, these expressions allow you to delve deeper into your data, isolating and analyzing specific aspects. So uncovering the hidden patterns again. So when you look at this, we have our 3 types of level of detail expressions. So what I'm going to do is give you a definition, and then I'm going to give you a use case for how this can be applied. All right, so let me go from left to right. So include LOD allows you to include a specific dimension in the calculation without affecting the visualization's level of granularity. It focuses on the included dimension while keeping the other dimensions unaffected. So again, in order for really, and this is how I learned, I'm not saying you should learn the same way, but this is how I kind of learned. What ends up happening is I like to apply a use case to why I'm doing something, whether it be a worksheet, whether it be a command. I need to apply it to why. It helps for traceability, but it also puts more reasoning when you're explaining this to somebody who's not as technical as you are, or a C-level or stakeholder. Why is this the way this is? It also helps you reinforce and keep things clean on why you're putting it in the dashboard or worksheet to begin with. So LOD, use case. So think about it, for instance, finding the average profit for selected products without breaking the analysis by other dimensions. So you want to go ahead and isolate a certain dimension in your calculation. This is when you would want to use it and include. And I'm going to get to that. I'll go through all of these 3 in the workbook, which I'll share momentarily. The next one is fixed. A fixed LOD allows you to calculate a value based on dimension, regardless of the visualization's level of granularity. It fixes a scope a scope of analysis to a specified dimension. And this is the one thing about fixed. Fixed LODs act independent of what is in the visualization already. It's always going to be, so you can always think about fixes That's what it's going to be, no matter what's in there. That's the only LOD that acts this way. Fixed is the way that if you want to have that value in there, and it's not going to change no matter what you put in the dimension, you want to use a fixed one because that's the only one that's not going to react. Last but not least, we have the include, exclude. Actually, I didn't really give a use case. So say, for example, calculating the total sales per region, regardless of other filters that are in your visualization. That would be one way that you would apply fixed. Exclude excludes a specific dimension without altering the visualization's granularity. So let you ignore that excluded dimension rather than, while considering others. So say, for example, you want to analyze the overall profitability while excluding a specific product category without changing the granularity of your visualization. So those are three kind of ways. And then obviously I'll get into this in the next slide on the syntax. So this is the part that really scares people. Curly braces, keywords, dimensions inside formula. But here's the truth. Every LOD expression answers just two questions. At what level should this be calculated rather, and what math should be done there? That's it. You remember those two things, or you stick to those two things, you're going to be fine. So as you can see here, I have an example of what the detailed expression should look like. Calculates the sum, so examples here, we have calculate the sum of sales for each category, regardless of other dimensions. That's the fixed example. Includes this one here includes the average profit for each region, keeping the granularity of others intact. Calculates the maximum sales value, while excluding the product's influence. So these are three types here. But remember, at what level should this be calculated? What math should be done there? You remember those two questions, that's it. You can write the formula. Everything else is just a syntax. So let's not make it too crazy. Just keep it very simple when it comes to this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing the slide. Your slide situation is over now. And I'm going to go ahead and open my workbook here. So let me end and close all these dang windows that I have open. And this is a good time to maybe give a pause and say, does anybody have any questions of anything that I've seen? And then Annabelle and team, I can make sure that these slides are available and send them out to you, and you can distribute it to the masses however you want. So
I will send every, I will put them in YouTube tomorrow. So.
Okay, right on. Alrighty then. Can you, yeah, you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, right on. So I am going to move around some things. So let me just do a sanity check. Is everything that I've talked about relatively low key and everybody's okay with it? Are you, if anybody who is nervous about LODs, am I hopefully bringing that anxiety level down? Okay. All right, good deal. Okay, so if you can't see I'm going to keep this both. I have this 50-inch screen, so I'm trying to organize things here. So I want to start off here, and this is a workbook that I've been kind of playing with for a while. So I have fixed LODs, and I want to do a fixed example. Okay, so hey, you want to do some cohort analysis on how many new customers we're adding over time, broken out by month, how many new customers are adding per region per month. So this is what you'll kind of see here, and this is a bar chart, and I'm going to actually go to this sheet. Okay. So what you want to do here for your fixed, I'm going to go ahead and show you basically what this is about. So everything, the level of detail command that we're going to be focusing on right now is the fixed. And so it really basically focuses on the cohort date. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to edit it. So this field is a calculated field. To do these, you really want to do calculated fields based on whatever dimension you want to elaborate on. Start it. What's your basis? So I'm going to go ahead and click edit so you can see some of this. I know, can you see? No, you can't see. Hold on. I may have to share my entire screen. You're not able to see the pop-up, are you? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to share the entire screen so that you can see pop-ups. I've never understood why that happens. Let me put you down here. So can you see the pop-up now? Because I'm going to hide your other window.
Yes.
Can you see? Okay, cool. All right. So I know it's small. I apologize in advance. Let me see if I can. So what this says is fixed customer name and order date. So as I break this down in plain English, it means for each customer, find the very first date they ever place an order. So here's what it's doing step by step, okay? So Tableau groups the data by customer name. It looks at all orders for that customer.
Excuse me, Chris, can you make like the text a little bigger on the window?
Yeah, let me see.
I know how to do that on a Mac, but not on your computer.
Yeah, let me see what I can.
Control scroll up will make the text, apparently.
Let's see. Control scroll up.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Is that better? Okay. So let me go back, and now that we're talking about this. So what this means is for each customer, find the very first date they ever place an order. So here's what Tableau is doing step by step. It's grouping everything, it groups the data by customer name. It looks at all orders for that customer, okay? It finds the earliest order date, which is what this min order date is representing. And then it stores that date as a fixed value for that particular customer, no matter how the view is filtered or broken down. Remember, this number, no matter what's going on in the visualization, will always be the same, no matter what visualization you put it in. With that being fixed, you're defining how the aggregation is carrying on. So that's one thing that you want to go ahead and do. So it gives you the calculation gives you each customer start date, the month they became a customer. Okay. So why does this matter? This is why that matters for your cohort analysis. So once you have this, you can convert basically it to a month. You could do a date trunk or month or whatever and group the customers by their first purchase month, which is essentially what you're doing here in the columns. Let me move this. Let me close this guy. I'll just hit OK, which is what you're doing here. You look down here, we're doing it by month. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Slightly annoying. All right. I should probably bold these at some point. But yeah, everything's here by month. Is broken by region, as you can see here. And then you can see the counts. It's a count distinct based off of the, and this is the number basically that we're doing, distinct count. And then you'll see that here. If I wanted to, you can see all of these numbers here. Break this down by region. You can go a little bit deeper if you wanted to, but this is basically at the region level. So effectively, this LOD creates the foundation for answering the question, when did each customer join us? Which is exactly what you need to build a monthly new customer cohorts by region. So salespeople would want to look at this and be like, oh my gosh, this is great. Because what does this mean in a business sense? This means if you see a region that may be struggling in a certain time frame or low numbers overall, like say, for example, both of these, all these basically say, hey, this is December, and January and February, first parts of the year are kind of slow. If I were looking at this chart, I'd be like, hey, so did this spike up? This spiked up more than this, but this is only 63 for the month of March, where everybody is up either in the at least 80, 77. Why is this one so low? So you may want to, this visualization might inspire, overall manager to look into what's happening in the South region and figure out why that number's lower. That's what this fix will answer.
Excuse me, Chris, to interrupt you. You cannot make the desktop fit the entire window, because for the moment we see a beautiful view of the night sky tree, but Tableau is very small.
Let me see if I can do something else.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, my big screen is not doing me any favors right now. So,
but at least people can see it better.
Okay. No, is everybody okay? My apologies for that.
Yes, and you even have question. What happens if the customer purchase in more than one region?
If the customer changes, meaning they move from one region to the next?
Purchase. Buy. Sorry, my French accent is killing me. So you have a question from Pam. What happens if the customer purchase in more than one region? I don't think that.
Oh, when they purchase in more than one region? Well, keep in mind that it's counting by customer in, so say, for example, this is just looking for the customer. It's not really, hold on. When I look at this, remember, it's all about what you kind of put in here. So if you wanted to do customer name and you only wanted to isolate a region as well, it's just, it depends on a bunch of things. It's looking at the date. So maybe if you have if they were on different dates, then that would be something that, we would probably put in there. If you wanted to, if it was possible really, to throw a customer in a different region, right? And you may have the same customer in a different region. That would be something that I would like to, that would be interesting to check. You could probably add something like region here just to see if those numbers definitely change. So I can do something like that. Now it's taking into account the region as well as the customer name. So if there are duplicates or something like that, or crossover, people are doing crossover regions, you can play with those numbers and see what that looks like. Does that answer your question? I'm going to change it back actually, but does that answer kind of your question? Because what you're doing right now is really, you're basing everything off of this example, which is this here, this statement. But you can add more to this. We just did it on customer name and order date. If you want to go into deeper consideration for your, you just add multiple, just a comma, and you add other dimensions. So if you have that kind of granularity or that kind of potential, thing, the one thing that I would probably change here is that I don't necessarily like using name, because you may have that name entered twice, or you may have different spellings. I generally would use like an ID field, something that's unique and almost like a key to whatever it is that you're going to be referring to, because IDs generally don't change at all. If somebody gets changes their name, or changes a different last name, changes marital status, that could potentially be a double. So I don't want to introduce too many one-offs, but you can also add region to this and get a much more finite number if you're worried about that. Does that answer kind of what you're talking about here?
Yes. I think she said that she sent you.
Okay, good. Because I don't want like the infinity screen to show up. So I'm going to do an include example. So right here, you have, let me go back. You may want to see what percentage of products are in that subcategory are unprofitable. Okay, so this is where we would want to take a look at your include statement here. So when you're dealing with an include, and I'm going to go right to this page. So what you're showing here in your text, basically your detail and label, you're showing the aggregate of unprofitable products, the percentage. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and I'll show you what this is. All right. So you're basically saying in plain English, what percentage of products in this subcategory are losing money? So again, I'm going to break this down and figure out, hey, what is each part of this doing? So look at each individual product, even if the view is only showing subcategory or higher. That's what this first part is saying. Add that up, your product's total profit. And then if for some reason the product's total is negative, then return 1, meaning that this product is unprofitable. So otherwise return nothing or 0. So that's what this part is doing. So now Tableau has 1 for every unprofitable product and 0 for the other. And so it adds up all those ones and giving a number of unprofitable products in the subcategory. Okay, you're doing a count distinct, how many unique products exist in that category, subcategory overall. And then finally, you divide the unprofitable products over the total products. Okay, and then out of all the products of this subcategory, what fraction or percent are unprofitable? So that's what all of this does. Okay, so when you look at this, and I'm going to close this guy, I could probably put this into percentage. So this is like, 66, some of these are a little bit here, not so profitable. You have this. You can take a look at this as 4%. So that's what include will really do for you. Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up soon. So let me do one last one. I'll do the exclude, excuse me. Geez. And then I want to see sales percentage as a percentage. I want to see state sales as a percentage of national sales. So I have this map. Oh, rats. Let me scroll down here. Have this map. See the percentages here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here. Did I go into the sheet? Go to sheet. Okay. So we have our exclude example. So we have national sales. So you need to do 2 things first. You need to figure out what national sales really is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I do an exclude sales by state from some sales. So what is that in English saying? For each state that I'm looking at, I want to calculate the total sales for the entire country. So Tableau temporarily removes state from the calculation, sums up sales across every state, and then repeats the national total for each state in the view. That's what makes it useful for your goal. So that's what this is doing. And then the last part of it is what percentage, when you take a look at that, I'm going to close this guy. When you take a look at, I will actually close this guy. Percentage of national sales. This is just as simple. So sum of sales over sum of national sales. Okay. So national sales you defined here. Okay. So now what you're going to do is when you look at each of these, you now see that, hey, this is You have 920. You have 920 total sales. You have 2 million. You know, you have 2 million of this. It's like 0.4% of the national sales. You know, you have 920. So if you just want to do that math, it's right there in front of you. It can show you this and how you did that really if you want to take a look at the label, or actually the tooltip rather. And then you can see the state that this is your sum of national sales. And then this is your state sales. And then this is your percentage, which is the aggregate of this. So now you can highlight all of these states and then get your numbers. And, you know, you may want to display this in a different way. This could get a little busy, but, you know, you always got to start somewhere. So this is the one thing that you want to do. So the LOD expression provides the national total, while the normal sum of sales provides the state total, thus allowing you to calculate each state's share of the whole. So that's one way that you can do it. So you can figure out from here what's working, what's not working, where we need to focus more of our sales on, and how you may want to run some campaigns to try to get some of these other states over here to try to get more sales there. You may want to target a campaign based off of the information that you see here. You may want to target campaign based on trying to improve a region. And that would involve a little bit, not just this, but understanding what sales have occurred, and then maybe running you know, something on those, a special on those to really get more people to purchase. So anyway, that's all I have. And I'm actually going to go back to my window. Where's my window? This window. And
So-
I'm going to stop sharing.
We have like some questions on the last example, for instance, from Amy and Kimber, asking you why are you, no, sorry, not Kimber, but from Amy. The chat is moving all the time, so it's difficult for me. Why did you use the exclude example on the last one? And if you could have done it with a fix instead?
You can. That's the whole thing about doing any of this, is that you want to have multiple tools in your toolbox. And the reason why I would use a fix over anything else is because I want to use it everywhere. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. So if I want that static, then I can use it everywhere. If it really is something that you're only going to use for like a particular view that you want to have influenced by other dimensions, that's when you would want to make a distinction between, you know, fixed and include, or exclude for that matter. You could do any of these in a multitude of different ways. But the thing is that if I take, it's almost like the same sort of idea when you're talking about when do I use, how many ways can I do things? If I find a need for a particular value in more than 3 or 4 areas, then I will try to streamline it, which means that I will look to try to build it in a fixed. And I may create one that's an include because I needed to respond to the other dimensions in your visualizations appropriately. So the answer to your question is yes, you can. And the only thing, and the thing is that it's a matter of how deep you want that to go to roll with you on. So, I mean, if you wanted to change and evolve around everything else that's in your visualization, then I would lean on the include. If you want something that's always going to be a certain value, like you can set it and forget it, it's always going to be a certain value. You want that in your viz no matter what's going on, then you do a fixed.
And we have, that was very clear, Chris. Absolutely very clear, and I really appreciate it. Do we have time to take another question, Prasann?
Yeah, sure, we can take it.
Yeah, we have like Scott. I mean, now there is a lot of questions, but we will take like the first one, like having been put.
Sorry, did I make things more difficult or did I make it clearer?
Exactly. No, you make it clear.
Okay.
Can you describe when you would use LOD versus table calculation?
See, I need to be very careful here because table calculations tend to irritate me. They get me like 0 to like 50 to 100 really quickly because like, no, that's not what I want. If I have an opportunity to define it myself with LODs, I will. I only trust table calculations for very simple aggregations because I end up getting really mad because I'm just like I want it at this level and I need it here and it's just like it's very weird. It's like I'm a very calm person, but table calculations sometimes really get me 0 to pissed really quickly. And I'm just like I want this. Why is it so hard to understand? And it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just a personal preference. If I have to require this calculation to do multiple things in multiple places, I will go to an LOD first. Plain and simple. Running count stuff, go ahead and roll with table calculations, especially when you're dealing with across or down and trying to get those. That's a pain in the neck to build in LODs. So I'd rather rely on something like that for table calculations, but yeah.
Thank you very much, Chris. And if you have time, you please answer some of other questions that we have in the Q&A.
Yeah, I can stick around and I'll answer some of this stuff. But thank you so much. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you. It was perfect. And now Shimdi will introduce Prasann.
Let me share my screen. Sorry, please keep it short.
So our next speaker, we have someone who we all love and recognize, Prasann Prem. As mentioned before, he's founded a bunch of initiatives geared towards helping people get upskilled in Tableau. He's got a lot of impact in the community. And today he's bringing the talk for us called KPI Cards Made Simple with Map Players. He has taken this, done its rounds with it. So I think we're lucky that he's also bringing it here for us to experience. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Prasann, to give us the good stuff.
Thank you so much, Shimdi. And thank you so much, Annabelle, for giving me this opportunity to be on Analytics TUG as a speaker. I think it was my dream to speak at this big stage. So thank you so much for that. And this is me, Prasann. I think I have been introduced twice already and every month as well. Since you're here, this is me. Most of you, we might be connected through LinkedIn. Just before we start, a couple of things I want to share. There is one course I had sold earlier, but right now I'm not doing these courses. So I finally decided to make this all free. And also the content I have just restricted it for 120 days because if it is free forever, nobody uses it. So if you think there is someone who is in process of learning Tableau, want to learn, let's say, all the concepts as well as dashboarding, design, prototyping. There's actually one session by Chimdi as well, that what are the lessons from data analytics industry. And there is also some sessions on Figma, Tableau prep, lots of things with data actually. So finally, I am going to release it publicly. I haven't released it yet. I'm still like trying to make some cuts, but I thought maybe I'll share it. So if you know someone that can take help from this course, really good course, intensive, I would say, let's say 40 hours. So please do share it with them. So I'll just share the link in case anybody needs it. Also, whatever we are going to talk about, the workbook is already on Tableau Public. I'll be sharing that link. So that's already taken care of. And now before we actually talk about or build it live, talk more, get deeper into the calculation. Let's do it from more like conceptual point of view, that what it is, what we are going to talk about today. So this session I have already done at user groups. This December, I did a data fam Europe in London as well, and quite enjoyed it. So welcome everyone. So to KPI Cards Made Simple with Map Layers. This is me, again, Prasann Prem, manager, Tableau visionary, your friend as well, Tableau buddy. So what you will achieve today through this session, that build KPI cards in a single sheet using map layers. I would say yes, it reduces dashboard clutter. I can use all the words I want to, but I would say, let's say it's all about how you can actually get a grip of the layout and not just mislead yourself or go everywhere. We'll talk about normalization. It sounds scary at first, but it's not. Then also we'll talk about how to apply geometric. Yes, it is original content. It gets better as much as I'm doing it. So uh, we'll also learn how to apply geometric coordinates to design custom layouts, then combine bands, variances, everything. So the whole idea of the session is not about that, okay, you can do this, you can build this, but to get you an idea that how you can leverage this whole concept of normalization as well as map layers to build something you want, to build a framework or build a dashboard or a KPI scorecard in the way you want, so that you don't have to come down to a fact that, okay, this idea might not be possible because we might have to use 10 sheets for that. So this is the whole idea of taking this and doing this. Though my team at work, like, they like it, but we also know that it can be tough to take over. So we're trying to more simplify it with time. So this is something we'll get a hold of today. We'll build a, I've used, because I don't want to get into the complexity of introducing a new data, I'm just using sample superstore. It's just region as well as categories. We have this big number, variances, as well as the trend. And it's all in one sheet. We'll try to make it as simple as possible. So before we even talk about why do this, I think it's really important to realize that why even spend our time listening to me and talking about this whole concept of using map layers. Map layers is for maps. Why build KPI cards? Coming down to normalization, coordinate connection, and then finally we'll build it out in Tableau as well. So why KPI cards using map layers? So before I even started this idea, I'm too lazy at heart. I don't like complicated things. So I tried it. I tried it without map layers. So one of the problems was, let's say I want periods in all the grids. That's not possible, actually, if you use small multiples, because it's going to be at the bottom. I can't control it. Pretty much restrictions. Also can't use multiple layers, though you can hack the access. Again, use table calculations, do a lot of stuff. I don't like it. Again, it was too much window max going on. And I decided, okay, no, I don't think I can do this for long, because to control this whole thing was becoming as complicated as I wouldn't have even imagined. So that was one of the problems, heavy setup with table calculation. I think Chris was just talking about table calculations. For me, it's more like, if you remember, there used to be consoles and video games which had lots of buttons, and you would just press everything around to get what you want or play the game. Sometimes I feel like that with table calculations. It's good to a level, but then it gets complicated as well. If you have multiple hierarchies, you have to arrange all of that. So no to table calculations. And yes, also limited flexibility to add or position anything specifically at a particular point on a sheet. So because of all these problems, I couldn't use small multiples. And that's when I decided that, okay, let's do it. Let's try map layers. And that's how the whole idea started. So before we go on to the map layers, a simple concept, I would say, normalization. It's more like a mathematical formulation that helps you to actually put all the numbers in on a scale of 0 to 1. So for example, if you see all these numbers right here, and you can see on the left, we have this formula, normalized value. So for each of this number, if we have to calculate the normalized value, it's, let's say this one is X. So X minus minimum, whatever the minimum value is in the whole set, and then divide by maximum minus minimum. So that's how we calculate the normalized value of any particular point or value. And when we do normalization, it's nothing but you are actually arranging them out in a sequence of 0 to 1. It's like putting all the numbers on a scale of 0 to 1. So it actually helps in standardization, and that's why this whole concept makes sense. In normal ways, you can make it complicated. You can think about so many things, but I feel to make it very simple in a simple language, it helps us find the proximity between 2 points, or how far one point is from another on a scale of 0 to 1. To keep it just simple, just to think how it is far from each other, that makes more sense. Now, the coordinate connection, I think this is quite important to understand, because when we are using our calculations on a map, it's latitude and longitude. But let's say when we are trying to build a KPI card, it's going to be X and Y coordinates. So how does it work? So this is just an example I had used, and the source is actually Mark Reed's visualization on Tableau map layers. So if you can see, whenever we use the make point function, the first, I would say, value is longitude, and then it is latitude, and that's how we we can define a specific point. Now, when it comes to KPI cards or X and Y axis, if you want to translate them, it's kind of same, because longitude becomes Y axis and latitude becomes X axis, and that's how we can relate to that. So this helps us in understanding where to put these points or where to put our calculation, and that will make sense. Now, layout logic and boundaries, it's important to understand that we should define boundaries. So whenever we are trying to use, we'll start with this concept that we'll define 4 base coordinates, or we can define actually minimum 3, because to define any polygon, or let's say, because here we are talking about rectangle, we need minimum 3 points to define a rectangle. So we need that. We'll define our origin. Origin is helpful because if you set a origin point as 0, 0, then to gauge where to place other things becomes pretty much relatable and easy to do that. And one more thing, that let's not define the points in a range to, let's say, 0 to 60, or going higher and higher, because what I've seen, it's eventually a map. And when you do a make line, it actually draws a curved line. So if you keep it in a very, I would say, specific less range, let's say 0 to 10, 0 to 15, it is a straight line at least. So it works for KPI cards. Okay, so now we'll head on to Tableau right away. This was all the theory I wanted to share with you. Okay, I think it's visible. Okay, so this is where we started defining the boundaries. We have all these points that are already defined. Now, I always start with this. So we'll do this live build right away. So first, what we are going to do is we need to bring our latitude and longitude. It's already there. That's fine. Then we'll place one of the, but before that, I think we need to create that grid. So we'll need region. We'll put region over here, and category over here. Okay, so this just creates a simple 4x3 grid for us. Now let's start setting up the boundaries. That means our base coordinates. So first is this point. Then just to show you what it is, okay, so this is just make point 7, 0. These values, it's static. We can make them dynamic, but let's go with static for now. It's just about setting the boundaries. So it is 7, 0. So 7 is our y-axis. 0 is our x-axis here. So let's place that as well. Now it's positioned. Now width is nothing to define the width. The calculation will be, I think, 0, 12. That's what we are using. Okay, so now you can see it's arranging itself, right? But still, it looks like a map. And the next thing that I want to do right away is now it's just about more formatting. So let's go to maps. Let's go to background layers. And we'll do a washout. It's all clean now. That's what we want to build our KPI cards. What more? I think there is one thing I don't like, and that is these features actually. So we can also disable them from our map options. We'll just remove them. We don't want anyone to click or zoom or do anything like that. Okay, so we'll start with the simple things that are setting up the ban and everything. So our first placeholder, we already have this. So we'll do it. Let's say we'll select the top left. And one other thing is with maps, it is actually hard to position elements. So what we are going to use is we are going to use shape. Now, if you see, we have these shapes. Always, if you don't have, you can always get transparent image, or you can look up to, there are many blogs, where you can find how to create a transparent image for yourself. So now this is just a transparent image, and now I'll just put my current sales on the label. Okay, now this is just more about formatting. I can format it to the left, make it more bigger, and the shade that you're seeing, it's a halo effect actually. So you can remove this. I'm not going to spend more time on formatting and making it very specific right now, because the most important idea to build here is not the numbers, because it's just position and numbers, rather than how to build the trend actually. That is actually the complicated part. So let's start from there. Okay. Now, the first thing is to set up the base, that is our axis. So if you see my baseline, I'll just show you the calculations. It's just, again, coordinates. This is our starting point. This can be 0. It's just I've used this to make it more specific, precise, shift it around. So it can be 0, 0 as well. And this is 0, 12.5, or it can be 12 as well, just to extend it on the ends. So we'll take this and we'll place this as well. Now we have a simple straight line. Also, one of the things you can see over here is there are 2 points that we don't need. So actually, we can just hide it for now. So width, we can hide it. And we can also hide the other one. So now, one more thing with the axis, we don't want them to highlight. So not just the calculations, but I'm also slowly going through whatever the features that can help you out. So from here, you can actually disable selection. Now, it's not, you cannot select it. That's always useful in map layers. I just make it a bit thinner. I'm a bit, I would say, frantic about how it should look like, so, but don't want to spend more time. Okay, so now we have this simple axis for ourselves. Now, what do we need? What more do we need here to place our bars? Because we are trying to build something like this, which eventually can also be like this. This is actually our end goal. So we do have the big number. We have this line over here. Now we want our periods, we want the bars, and that's where the whole calculation, normalization, everything comes into the picture. So now the first thing is to see how all these things are being portrayed or all the numbers. So to do all of this, I always build a text table, not to export it, but rather than to understand how the whole numbers works, right? So one of the, sorry, notifications. So what I'm doing right now here, I've created a parameter that takes on the current date. That's just to show you that it can be dynamic. And based on that, there's a simple calculation, which is for rolling period. I can show you that calculation, but it's a simple calculation to how you can actually select the last 12 months. That is kind of standard. And there are multiple ways to write this calculation. So I'm not going to deep dive, but rather than what I'm doing here is that based on that, I'm just trying to define that, okay, whatever the current date selection is, you need to get only the last 12 months. That's all. That's what it is. And there can be different ways to write this calculation. So now my current date, let's say, is 31st December 2024. And if you can see, I've placed my region category. Those are the two dimensions that I have. And based on that, I do have all these periods from October 24 to 23. Now, the next thing that I need is I need labels, but I can't use directly from the date. So I need to actually just play around with some string calculations so that I can make them specific to that. So for that, I have this calculation that is actually nothing but based on the rolling period. It's just a filter inside because so that I don't have to put it on the map layers. And it is just creating this name that you can see here. It's just a string calculation, nothing very specific. Then what is important over here is your custom date period sort. It is more like a sort that I have defined so that I can place all my periods in a specific order. Now, again, this is just to define a sequence of numbers that can help me out. Now, if you see this date diff calculation is nothing but on the basis of months. This is on the basis of month. It is just taking the date difference in terms of month, and I've added negative. Now it can be positive as well. Why? Because I want my current period to be 0. It's just to also, I would say, handle my calculations well. And I'll show you how it helps. And it can be in other direction as well. No need to use minus, but this is just one of the approaches how I'm doing it. So this is just one of the calculation, and you can see based on that we are getting 0 to minus 12 values. Now the next thing, because we can do this over there as well, but what I need to do is, rather, if I don't do minus, I can end up with this, but I wanted to use normalization so that even if, let's say, there are different numbers that are coming, it should always be in that sequence. Now, how we are defining that? So let's say if we look at this particular calculation, now that's where it's a normal LOD calculation that uses the custom date period sort. But if you remember the normalization calculation, which was something like take the current value, subtract it with minimum, and then divide by maximum minus minimum. So similarly, what I'm doing is, because I need a dimension, I already have the string calculation for that. I'm using the fixed, and then I am just taking this filter that when this b dot rolling period, because that just takes only those selection of periods. So, and then we are taking these values. These are actually repeatable calculations. If you use my workbook, you can just replace them. And Steve and Tore also did one of the sessions at Data Farm Europe where they used my dashboard, plugged it with a different data source, and it worked. So yeah, you can reuse. So no need to, like, let's say, very much go into like how these calculations are being written, but rather to understand that what is being done here. So it's just taking those values and doing normalization, and then I'm multiplying it with 12 minus 0 because 12 is my width basically. I can actually remove this 0 as well to not make it complicated. And what happens with this is when you do the normalization, the numbers will be in the range of 0, 12, 0 to 1. But then when you multiply it with 12, it actually comes in the form of actually numbers which are in the range of 0 to 12 itself. Now, similarly, now if I take sales, now with sales, I have all these values for these particular periods, but I can't put all of these numbers directly on my map. So first, let's say, let's put our bars or the periods on the label here. Okay, so let me show you what this calculation means. So it is nothing but 0, comma c dot bar period, which specifies basically that position, which we just saw right now. So I'm going to place this. So now I have all these points. I'm going to place this in detail, and then I'm going to place these on labels. Now it's again the same thing about all that formatting and stuff, which you can do and make it more smaller, and it actually stretches based on whatever your space is. And we can format it. We can make it more down, position it, because it's all coordinates, right? Let me make it maybe shape as well again. Yeah. And because with shapes, actually, it works better. That's what I've seen. And you can always use your transparent image with that. Okay. So now we have all of our trends, all of our periods, basically, not the trends. Now it's time to draw the bars actually for these trends. Now to do that, what do we need is, we have the sales that is already there, but directly we again can't use the sales, right? So for that, again, we need to normalize. And what we are going to do is, I'll show you a couple of calculations that will help you, because again, we do the normalization. What we need to do is whatever the set of calculations, because now normalization here for sales is dependent on what the axis would be. Is it for all the periods, or is it for all the regions and categories over here that are present? Based on that, you would like to define the axis. And only based on those points, you would like to have the minimum and maximum. So that's what we are going to do. So now here, if you see, we have C dot bar amount, minimum, maximum, and then some normalized value. So let's just check out some of these calculations. So now if you see this bar amount calculation, it is nothing but we are taking the L dot map period, which is nothing but our period, because we need that dimension. And then we need region and category, because these are the only 3 dimensions based on which partitioning is happening. So we are taking this, and then we are just summing it up based on the rolling period calculation that we already have. So it takes only those set of numbers and then sums it up. And that also gives us unique values for all these 3 dimensions. Sorry. Now we have this calculation. Now, nothing changes, but now when we're talking about this whole set, we're taking the minimum and again making it fixed. Now, this means based on whatever all these values we have, when this B dot rolling period is being applied, we are taking the minimum. And this calculation gives us something like 29.16. 29.16, if we see on our sales, it's somewhere in South. I remember, yes. In South technology, this is the minimum number that we are getting in all of the values that we have right now in our set, or the selection that we have for all the periods. So that's how we are getting our 29.16, because we need it on the same row actually to calculate it. Now, similarly, we need the max, because to calculate the normalization, we need the max, and we just duplicate that calculation and put max in place of minimum, and that's how we get it. Now, once that is done, we just need this calculation actually, which is nothing but we are again doing the C bar amount, which is nothing but the amount itself. And then we are subtracting it with minimum, again, applying the normalization formula. And then we are multiplying it with a multiplying factor. And that is nothing but the height of your bar. Currently, I've placed it 6, because if you remember, the starting point and the top point, that was around 7. So I've placed 6. And because why a parameter? Because then you can actually just put a number, see whatever the height or the maximum height you want for this bar altogether. Okay, so now we have this calculation. The next thing that we need is, because we can't just use it directly, so we need to put this calculation in this format actually. Now, if you see, this is nothing but make line. Okay. So this is nothing but to draw this bar or anything. It is nothing but make line. We are not doing any sorcery over here, but it's just make line, where we are defining the starting point. That is our 0 comma period. So 0 is our y-axis, and then all the periods. And then the next point where it is going to join. So let's say the first make point is our bottom point on the 0 or the baseline. And the second make point is where the height is going to be. So now when we are going to use this over here, it will build all these bars. And that's how it works. Actually, now you can actually now here, if you see, it's not working and it's highlighting everything, because actually you need that dimension that defines those period. So we'll just put L.map period. Now you can actually define each of these bars. You can actually play around with them and modify them, make their height if you want them bigger, whatever. It's more, but because once you understand how these coordinates can be placed, how these bars can be drawn, it's nothing but playing around with calculations and drawing these things at your own will. Right now, one of the things with maps is that when you're using this particular map, you can actually draw all these points. But if you use any of these other marks, it always draws from 0. So actually, you don't need make line if you are doing any other shape. So let's say I can use area. It will make an area chart. But the proportion is not actually same, and that is fine. We can also do line. You can actually do all of that actually. So let's say if we do area, and now with this, we can again place another layer on top of this, make it line. Again, we need that L.map period to define the line. We can, it's more about formatting, just whatever you want, basically. You can actually do around it. I'll just make it black. And there was one calculation, if you see over here, there are a lot of things, it's gray, and then there's an indicator as well. So what I have done, and that's why I actually defined this whole 0 date difference, if you remember this calculation, because I'll show you this calculation. What I have done is it helps you to identify, because now since you already have this custom date period sort for -12 to 0, and you want any of these points to be highlighted somewhere. I remember we always needed these 2 endpoints, because we wanted that where it is going from start to end. So it will help you define. You don't have to, let's say, do table calculation, last of 0, first of 0. You can actually use these numbers directly. And I'll just put it over here. Now there's a bar. I can actually use circle on top of it. And there it goes. Right. Now, similarly, you can define many points, do whatever you want with it, actually. Like it's a whole game around to actually leverage this whole map structure in the form of XY coordinates. And that is what it is about. It's pretty simple if you get a hang of it. And quite interesting as well. You can design whatever you want, and you don't have to do multiple sheets. Maintenance will be easy. Yeah, it's once you need to definitely document these calculations, otherwise it can be a mess for your developers. But other than that, I think it's a great approach to do things, and it keeps it simple enough. Now, there is one thing around this whole idea is that this whole normalization and everything, it works very well when there are all positive numbers. But when there are also negative numbers, it doesn't works well. Can you tell me like why with negative numbers, this all calculation will not work? Any ideas around this? Any thoughts?
The origin, you have to recalculate the row with the origin, no?
The world is not yeah, I think it's also about let's say whenever we are doing normalization, the minimum value is 0. So what it is going to happen, it's not going to actually dip it or invert the chart, because it's just we are actually, there is no axis that helps us draw these charts, but we are playing around with coordinates. So if we do the normalization, whatever the negative or the most negative value is, that will always be 0. So it just doesn't help with the same set of calculation. And that was a big problem at my place, because I work for a bank. We had all these KPIs: net profit, net impairment, that can be positive as well as negative. So it was actually, this whole solution was fine, but it was failing as well. So that's where I actually tried to solve it in a different way, but I would say it's just more of an illusion that how you can play around with it. And what I did was, if you see this whole solution, it uses the almost the same set of calculations, but rather than, what I'm doing is I'm actually shifting all these calculations if the values are negative. Now, the whole approach here is where it gets a bit complicated as well to help you understand right away, right here. But I'll try to I would say, go around it and show you what I'm trying to achieve here. So let's say for the map baseline, what I have done is I already had my multiplying factor, so that I don't fix values, but rather than if I want to move it around, I can have it dynamic. So I'm actually dividing it by 2. So that means where in my last KPI grid, I was using 0 as my base layer or my baseline. Here I'm using 3 because my multiplying factor right now is 6. So whatever my whole bar length is going to be, I'm actually cutting it in half. And in between, I'm placing this. There's a different way we can do this, but that will be a better solution based on actually the minimum we can shift the axis, but let's not make it that complicated. So I'm just splitting this whole area that I have for 0 to 6, where I was drawing bar, into halves. The first upper half is for positive, the lower half is for negative. I'm keeping it simple right now. So that's why my 0 line or my baseline is in between right now. Now, the second thing is you can't actually use the same calculation to define this. So what I needed was I needed to do this normalization, not based on its original values, but rather than on its magnitude or its absolute values. So that's what I did. I actually did, again, it's all the same calculation, but I'm actually taking the absolute values wherever for profit. So if you see all these calculations, I do have all this with absolute. And the final normalization that I'm doing here, which is this calculation, if you see, this is all the calculations with absolute values. And after that, I'm doing this normalization. So now normalization is happening on the magnitude rather than positive or negative values. So that helps. Yes, tooltips are pretty much doable. Everywhere, wherever you want, you can have the tooltips. I haven't like polished it, but you can have it anywhere, wherever you want. that's not a problem. But wherever you want to disable it, you can disable it. You don't need to put a blank, or let's say do true or false, de-highlight, lots of other hacks. You don't need to do it. You can actually just disable it. So now, once you have done normalization, you can't use it directly actually. You also need to have these calculations which actually help you understand the values without normalization. Now, if you see this calculation where it is actually defining, where is this one? So now what is happening, we are actually checking. Now this C dot bar profit is actually the calculation which is just giving us the value at each point, and it's not an absolute value. It is actually checking whether this particular value is positive or negative, just the value. And based on that, it is making a line. So let's say the value is positive. Now, where will be our starting point? It should start from 3, right? So the make point, the first point is this, divided by 2, that is 3. And again, bar period is the same. And the second point will be again this part, which is the starting point, plus the normalized profit divided by 2. So whatever the normalized profit magnitude is, we are also dividing it by 2 so that we can fit this in the upper section itself. Now, else, if it is not positive, it has to be negative, and that's where it again starts from 3, but it has to be inverted. So rather than adding the value to the multiplying factor divided by 2, we are subtracting it, and that inverses the chart in the opposite direction. If you see these bars, it can be more precise. Let's say, because right now, if we see this whole section over here, there are only few bars which are going below, right? So actually we can take the maximum negative bar, and based on that we can shift this axis. We can make that dynamic happen. It's more about how you want to control it. But if you don't want to get it that dynamic or complicated, I think it's a good solution to split it in half and play around with it. And one question that you had was, I can see here, if you disable tooltip one layer, all layers are disabled. I actually don't think so, because if we go back to this one, I actually disabled for some. So let's say if we disable for which one? This one. Let's say we disable selection. So here you don't see anything, but here you still can, because otherwise it won't help, right? But with map layers, if you can't disable and enable for separate layers, it just doesn't make sense to play around with all these different layers. So that is that. And it's just a framework again to help you understand how you can build lines, areas, bar charts, different variations. There can be more examples to this, but this is all. You can take it from there, use it in your workbooks. You can also let me know if you have any questions. So that is all. And thank you so much for hearing me out. You can actually take this workbook, which I've already published on Tableau Public, and you can download it, play around with it. It uses the simple sample superstore, so no problem with that as well. Okay, so I think I'm over time.
That was great. So thank you, Prasann. So I think in the interest of time, Prasann, if you don't mind, maybe just if you could run through the Q&A. I think there are some questions there. And for everyone, this workbook will be made available. It is already on Tableau Public, so please do check it out, rewatch the video, and you should be able to make some of those connections there. Awesome. So last but not least, we have another awesome speaker, Dr. Kevin Lee Elder, and he's a longtime academic and industry leader in analytics, data fluency, and visualization. He currently teaches and writes on business analytics principles, and works part-time at Dresner Advisory Services, where he contributes to some research and analytics stuff there. He's also a lead for Viz for Social Good. It's another challenge in the community, which is very impactful. For those who are not yet aware of it, I would encourage you to check it out on the Tableau community page. It gives you an opportunity to support a lot of initiatives that are, definitely world changing and impactful. He's also done a bunch of speaking at global conferences, including TC, Fringe Festival, SAP Tech Ed. So we're definitely getting someone who is no stranger to, disseminating analytics information. If you ever want to talk about accessibility and color and design, definitely, Dr. Kevin has a lot to say about that. So you can always hit him up for a conversation on that. His talk today is about, the first step to building accessible dashboards, which is, again, can we see the data? So I'm going to pass this off, and so that we can get the goodies.
All right. Thanks so much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I'm not muted. Yeah, Viz for Social Good is no more, unfortunately. Viz for Social Good got shut down last year. But in its place, several of the leaders for Viz for Social Good have started datachangemakers.org. So check out datachangemakers.org. We have a current project running right now, which my students are going to start working on next week, because I've always felt like we needed to take our skills and pay it forward and to help folks out. So as mentioned, my name is Dr. Kevin Lee Elder. I have a new official title. I need to put it on all my slides now. I am the Gary A. Moore Endowed Professor of Analytics and Cybersecurity. So first time in my almost 40-year career, I'm now an endowed professor, which means I got a couple of dollars to spend on my research activities. So that's kind of nice. Teaching down here in Louisiana to get away from the snow and ice. And then over the weekend, we got hit with snow and ice, and we have no idea what to do with it. But today I want to talk about giving you guys some advice from the colorblind, because there are so many folks out there who give advice, and most of them are not experts, and almost all of them are not colorblind. So they're trying to tell you what things work for colorblind when they're not colorblind. Whereas I am totally colorblind and have been teaching my students. In fact, I bring folks in as professor for the day, and I still have a few openings in February, Annabelle and others. If you want to record a quick lecture and then come in for a live Q&A with my students, I'm looking for folks to come in and talk about taking their analytics skills to the next level. So Prasann, you just showed how to take it to the next level. Chris just did take it to the next level. Lots of examples of how you can take it to the next level. But I always do a color presentation in all my classes. And when I bring back my alumni, that's the only thing they remember. And I'm like, that's good, because you learned something useful. I finally gave this talk at TC 23 back in 2023. And I had almost as many participants as we have now, although we've lost 100 participants from our peak earlier, but glad to have a big crowd here like we did at TC 23. So I've got, switch screens here. All right, there we go. So I got the forward-looking statement. I don't think anybody has showed this yet. Don't invest on anything based on me. I don't work for Tableau. I just love Tableau and have been using Tableau since I think Tableau 7, which would be like 2012. So maps have come a long way, as have a lot of things in Tableau. But what I want to do today is I want to show you how we see colors, because most of you have been taught wrong. I want to show you that most likely colorblind is not an on or off, and that we really ought to be talking about color vision deficiency, not color blindness, because color blindness makes people think you're blind and you can't see it. No, it's not that we can't see it. We see it differently. And so I want to show you what that looks like, and then give you some advice on what to do. And then hopefully we'll open up some tools here and take a look at the tools. I will make all these slides available because I'm going to fly through these slides. I think at the Atlanta Tableau user group, I did 200 slides. So I could do a lot on this, or I could do a little. And so I always like to put a lot in the slide deck so you can look at them later. When people find out I'm colorblind, I always like to do some colorblind jokes. So are you colorblind? No, no, but in red. So I usually put this slide at the end, but I thought today I'm going to put it at the beginning and the end. Because when you are creating these data visualizations, you've got, as you've seen from Chris and Prasann, we got numbers, we got letters, we got shapes, we got colors, we're doing calculations, we've got a language, Annabelle, that we're trying to translate from different languages that may not be our first language. And Tableau is definitely a language to itself. And so you're trying to put it in context, but you've got to see it. If you can't see it, then all of this is lost. You're making it hard to do all of the above if you just simply can't see the colors. So again, how do we see colors? We see colors because in our eyes, we have cones and rods, which allow us to see the reflection of light on objects. And we have cones that allow us to see things in a blue color. We have cones that allow us to see red, and we have cones that allow us to see green. And so most people were taught the color wheel in elementary school. I gave this talk to the K through 12 teacher TUG group and said, stop teaching the color wheel. It's not blue and yellow make green. It's red and green make yellow.
Sorry, Doc, can you put it in a slideshow so we are sure to have like a better vision?
I think
because
the
some people
slideshows
don't have like the full screen option on the top.
This is giving you the full screen slides here. This way I can see you all and see what it looks like on the screen.
Because we still see Dr. Elder TC23 and analytical.
Yeah. But if I start the slideshow, then I'm not going to be able to see my screen.
Ah, you're not.
And so I want to be able to see any comments.
So people,
questions.
you have like a square on the top right corner to be able to make it bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I could do the slideshow, but you're not going to really see a whole lot more. Where's the slideshow? Because now I can't see anything except for these slides, but you can see them bigger. All right, so again, you red and green make yellow. Yellow is not a primary color. Yellow is a combination of blue and red. So again, I provide these slides for you just to dig into this more for any of you who want to dig into it more. But we have these cones and rods, and it makes it so that we can see color. Now, I Googled this about 10, 15 years ago, and color blindness, according to Google, doesn't directly lower your life expectancy. However, it could affect someone by, for example, making them not able to tell the difference between the red and green on a stoplight and being killed in an accident. Really? I get that a lot. How do you tell red, green, and yellow on the traffic light if you don't see colors? We do see them. They just look different to us because we either have less of these cones and rods in our eyes or we don't have green at all. Some people are green colorblind, and so they don't have any green, but they see everything as a combination of red and blue. And lots of people say, well, it's such a small percentage of the population that are colorblind. Why should we bother about it, Doc? Well, let's just look at an example of what your eye would, what people with normal vision have. You've got a lot of red cones, you've got a lot of green cones, you've got some blue cones. Over time, everyone is going to get older. Everyone is going to lose some parts of their body, including your cones and rods. So everyone will become colorblind over time. It's not an on or off. It has to do with how many cones do you have to be able to see colors. And over time, you will effectively have less. So everyone will eventually get colorblind. So what's my prevalence of colorblindness around the world? It's everywhere. It's everyone to one degree or another. So again, lots of experts out there have lots of examples, and they tend to use the color wheel to show how colors are made, and they really need to be using RGB. I mean, we even called our monitors RGB back in the day, red, green, and blue. So how do we test and see whether you're colorblind or not? Well, we put up these plates, and these plates have different colors in them. And so it allows us to see which ones of these you can see easier than others. So in the chat, which now I can't see, put in what numbers you are seeing in these slides, in these plates. There are 9 numbers there. How many of them can you see really well? How many of them are, boy, that's kind of hard to see. So give you a second here to take a look at them. And again, you can grab the slides and do more of this later. So you should have seen 635, 958, 59, 10 in those slides here. And again, some of them are easier to see than others because some of them you have a bit of color blindness. So we can play with this. So here I've taken all of the red out. And so by taking all the red out, if you have green or blue, some green or blue color blindness, this is harder to see than it was before when I had red mixed in. Here I have overloaded with green. Red is still there, but now I've overloaded it with green. And if you had green color blindness, this would be really hard for you to see. Whereas for everyone else, it's like, wow, look at all that green. Here I've overloaded the red. Green is still there, but it's got a lot of red. And if you have trouble with green or blue, then you're not going to see the subtle differences. It gets buried in all of the red. And then here I've taken out all of the green to show you what it looks like if you can't see green at all. So again, we can take these tests, we can find that you are colorblind. My kids, when they were little, we did these kind of tests. What image do you see here? For those of you who have pretty good vision or a small amount of color blindness, you all should be able to see what that image is there. Throw it into the chat. How about this one? What do you all see in this image? What image do you see? What number do you see? What shape do you see? What word do you see? Actually, there's nothing in there. Just to give you all a feel of what all those other ones look like to me. To me, these all look like this until I train myself on the colors to actually see them, to be able to see what they look like. I love to give real world examples to folks. So here I have taken out all of the red. So if you are red colorblind, or you have red color vision deficiency, you don't see red, but you do see it. So here is meat, and they have varying shades of red. And so you're my mom, and you want it to be rare. You want it to have a lot of red in it. If you can't see red, it's kind of hard to tell which one of these is the rarest. And if you were like my dad, he liked it well done. So which one is the well done? So in this one, 1, 2, 3, or 4, throw it in the chat. Which one is the well done? The one with the least amount of red. Hard for you to do because there is no red here. Red is a different color, showing you what it looks like to someone who can't see red. They see it, it's there, but it's not red to you, to most of you. Which one is it? 1, 2, 3, or 4? It was actually 4 is the most well done. All the others have a lot more red in them, or a lot more like my mom liked them. Even that 4, it's got to be a lot more blackened for my dad. And we see these all the time in sports. They like to do these baseball spray charts. Oh, isn't this lovely? Except for those of us who are colorblind, it's really hard for us to see and tell the difference between those colors. You got red at 35 and green at 9, but now you come over here and that 35 looks like that 9. They're very, very similar when we have trouble seeing color. Tableau does this. When I speak at Tableau, they give me a template. It has all of these colors all over it. I usually will try and find the one that looks the best for us colorblind folks, which for TC23 where the green ones over on the right, those show up better. All these other ones, the colors mix too much, the shades are too similar, it's hard to see them. I put them in for approval, and then they changed all my slides and put all that color back in there. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Please, I'm trying to make the point that if you make it so that those of us who are colorblind can more easily see the colors, can more easily see what you're trying to show us, you will make it better for everyone. So it's not just for the colorblind you do this to. Everybody has a little bit of color blindness. Everybody has some color blindness. And so you're straining to see the colors often when you don't need to. And so we get lots of advice from the experts. Oh, we've got a color accessible palette. Use it. No, please don't. So here for TC23, I pulled up the palettes. They're still pretty similar. They haven't really changed much since whatever 23 dot what, probably a 22 dot that I pulled this off of. These are the Tableau 10, the Tableau Light, the Tableau Medium. Here's what they look like to me. Again, pastels come in. Oh, people love to make pastels all over their charts and their workbooks. Pastel means take the color out. So there's not much color in there, not much for you to be able to tell the difference between pink, orange, and green. But if you have good color vision, you can still pretty much tell the difference. But for those like me, yeah, it's all shades of gray and they all look way too similar. Pastels are not good. But it gets worse for most companies. And I've given this talk to lots of vendors, I've given the talk to lots of conferences, to lots of TUGs. And so here is the Tableau colorblind palette to fix this. And yet, when we look at it, if you're green colorblind, it's not too bad. But if you're me, that colorblind palette, there are too many colors in that colorblind palette that are too similar to other colors in that colorblind palette. So if someone tells you use the colorblind palette, that will fix it, they're wrong. And it needs to be fixed. We need to do some things to make it work, even if you're going to use the so-called colorblind palettes. I see this one a lot. Here's don't use red and green. And I see these maps, usually they're election maps or something, and they've got red and green there. And here's what it looks like to me. So again, there are the red states: Texas, Arizona, Oregon, Colorado, Florida, Carolina, Tennessee. And again, I can see them. They're not red to you, but they're red to me. And I can see that those are the red states. And I can see what the green states are. I've trained myself that shade of gray is red, that shade of gray is green. But they'll say, oh, look, we'll fix it. We'll use blue and orange, or blue and brown in our colorblind palette. That will make it better. Well, here's what it looks like to me. So the colorblind palette in this example, which is widely used and on blogs all over the internet, here's the solution for colorblindness. You've made it worse. I would rather you did this, because this is easier for me to see than this is. And here, if you want to see, here's one that I could see much better. Red and black and blue is better for me to see, better for you to see, better for all of us to see, by just changing the colors to make it so I can see them, everybody can see them. My favorite example, the NFL, when they went to Thursday nights, they decided to have colored jerseys. The whole jersey was one color. And infamously, the Jets were playing the Buffalo Bills one Thursday night in these color rush uniforms, and they were red and green. And they said, oh my God, the people that are colorblind can't see anything. It's a mess to them. No, we can see it. They even made up a video of it to make it look like, oh, they're all the same. They're really not. If I have trouble seeing red, notice that the buffalo is not red now, but I can still see that they're red. And that uniform for Buffalo is different than the green uniforms of the New York Jets. If I have trouble seeing blue, I could still see the red and the green pretty well. Blue is color blindness. It's out there. Even for me, I could see the difference between the red of Buffalo and the green of New York. This is how I've grown up. I'm used to being able to tell the difference, but I can also look at their helmets. I can look at the stripes on the pants. I can look at the direction they're running on the field to tell the difference, which is good. So using red and green is not all bad. Here we're seeing a green, we're trying to draw your attention to that top salesperson. And for red and green colorblind folks, it's okay. So many years ago, when I gave this talk, I did it for website design, and most of it still applies to creating your charts and your data viz. So don't just use colors, use some symbols. This happens to me all the time on the internet. I'm filling out a form, I hit it, it tells me there's an error. The error field is in red, the rest of them are in whatever other color it is, and I can't see the red. If they put the exclamation point there, then I would know, oh, that field is wrong. But they don't do that. They just change the color, and I'm supposed to find the field where the color has changed in order to know that's where I need to correct my error. Very frustrating. It's a industry standard on the internet. When you go to a page and they have web links, they're blue, click on it, visit it, come back, they're purple. Well, guess what? For most of us who are colorblind, we don't see that you've added that red into the blue as easily as other people can. And so the red and the purple look the same to me. Industry internet standard limiting folks who have color blindness. We can do better. Keep it minimal. Why do we need all of those colors? And I'll show you some examples of this, why we don't need to use all those colors. Here's another good one for Tableau. Instead of just using colors, give us some texture or something to help us tell the difference between those colors. Tableau hasn't built it in yet. Maybe 2027 we'll get. There's hacks, and you can do this. And I've got some workbooks to show how you can put textures across your colors. But we shouldn't have to. It should be an option for us. Default in the tool to help everyone be able to see those different categories better. We can play with the colors and hues and not use colors and hues that are too close together. So again, most experts say don't use red and green. Well, red and brown is also problematic. As I told you, blue and purple is problematic. Green and blue is problematic. Light green and yellow. There's lots of bad combinations. Red and green should be at the bottom of the list. It's really not that bad for most people who have color blindness. So don't rely on color alone. Keep it to 2 or 3 colors. You don't need more than that. Use some textures, use some patterns, select some contrasts. Try to do things a little bit different. So here I want to show you some of these tools, and again, I will put these they're in the slides, and I will put the link to the slides in the chat here in a second. But here's one of my favorite tools. You load an image in, and it will show you what it looks like to folks with different types of color blindness. So which one is the red crayon? Or no, let's do blue today. Which one is the blue crayon? Can anybody tell which one is the blue crayon? Fix your eyes on which one you think is blue, and then I'll reveal it. There's the blue one. Yes, I will share the link to the Google Slides here momentarily. Here's, whoops, not that one, go back. Here you could do a website. So you can put in a URL and it will show you what it looks like with the different types. So I've done some stuff with the home improvement stores. And one in particular loves to have orange all over their website. And you've got to have orange everywhere. Well, if I don't see red very well, your orange looks terrible to me. And so you're proud of your brand colors and you plaster them on here too much and it doesn't look that good. So we can bring a URL, although Tableau public URLs don't render very well here. So I wouldn't use that. It would be better to grab a screenshot and load it into this tool. So here, Jim Daynard just wrote a really excellent blog on color choosing. and working with colors. And so I grabbed one of his images of the United States, again, using that same color scheme that supposedly works for those of us who are colorblind. And again, when I look at it, here's what I see. It's tough for me to see. Color brewer is one that a lot of folks use to choose colors. But again, why do I need 9 categories of data on the screen to try and see? Too many of these shades of green are too close together, even for those of you who aren't colorblind. But limit yourself. Just show the 3 categories. I mean, what are you looking at? What do you want to know? Who are our top markets? Who are our bottom markets? Who's in the middle? Who's our top 10%? Who's everybody else? Highlight the 10% and unhighlight with colors the other 90%. You really don't need 9 or 10 shades of these diverging colors, because again, those of us who are colorblind are going to have a hard time. So will everyone else. We've got to make it easier for folks to visualize and see these. My last favorite tool to show people is from Adobe. And so Adobe, again, uses the red, green, and blue colors to show you what they look like. But again, too often people will just, oh, I'm going to use these 5 colors here. And those 5 colors are way too hard for everyone to see. So I tell people, use the triad, because that's how we see things. We see red, green, and blue. So if we choose our colors red, green, and blue, that's going to work pretty good for those of us who are colorblind. And so you just choose one and go a third of the way around, and you've done the best you can do to keep these colors so we can all see them really well. If you try and do more than 3, it gets problematic. So again, I could go to a custom and I can say, okay, these are going to be problematic. So let me slide them over, and let me slide this one over, and let me slide this one over, changing the hue, changing the saturation, so that these that are in the middle are different from the 2 that they're next to. So no 2 have the same saturation, don't have the same hue. But I would never go more than 6, ever, never. Because you try and go more than this, and even those of you who aren't colorblind are going to have trouble seeing the difference between those colors. It's much better if we just stick to the 3. And again, choose the 3 you like, move it around, choose 3. These are our top, these are the bottom, these are the average. You don't need more than 3. Most of the time you can get by with 2, one to highlight, one that doesn't. So again, this is much more useful than trying to use the color wheel to say yellow and blue is making green. No, yellow and blue is not making green. Yellow is a light that comes from mixing green and red. And so again, that traffic light picking yellow, green, and red was a bad choice to begin with. But we live with it, and we train ourselves to see the difference. But why do that? Why force yourself to do that? So Jim Daner, one of my professors for the day, comes into my class all the time virtually and gives lectures. Jim just wrote an excellent one on different types of palettes and choosing colors, and how you can choose the colors. And he's got a workbook out on Tableau Public, off of his website, that shows you how to do all of the things that I've talked about. Except I've offered to Jim to do a guest blog and do an addendum and say, okay, when you're showing all of these colors, that's just too many colors of pink. Even you are going to have trouble seeing the different shades of that pink. Pink is a pastel. We've taken the color out to begin with, and now we've taken color out at varying levels to try and show the difference, and it's too hard to see. Let's keep it simple. Keep it less colors. You want to highlight the top 10%, highlight that, and Jim does go into that. So this is one of the better ones that I've seen. He talks about most of the topics that I talked about, But he's missing some of the nuances of, yeah, for those of us who are colorblind, this one's not going to work. So what's an alternative? And so I'm going to do an addendum on Jim's blog to finally have one out there to give some good, meaningful advice with the tips that that I'm giving you today. So what questions do you have for me? Let me grab, here's where you can grab the slide deck. It should be available to everyone. Here's where you can find Jim's blog post, which hopefully soon I will do an addendum. And here's where you can grab a Tableau public workbook and download it and play with it and try these things out. But use the tools that I'm showing you. So create your dashboard and then grab a screen image of it, save it to a file, and throw it into this tool and see how it looks. And then change your colors, tweak them, move them over, change the what you're looking at, and you will help not only me, but you will help everyone be able to see your data, and then you can do the LODs and the map layers and everything else. But if you're choosing colors that are too hard to see, too many of them to see, it's frustrating me, but it's also frustrating you, and you don't know it because you're not colorblind. But I'm having trouble seeing these, and there's good sound reason why. Early on in my career, I was introduced to the KISS principle. Keep it simple. Applies to colors. We don't need more than 3 colors. We just don't. There's no use case for it. Keep it simple, folks. Make it easier for us to see. Questions, comments? What do you all
Yeah,
have?
we have some questions for you.
Sure.
The first one is from Angela. Hey, Doc. This is so informative, and as we speak, I am making change in my dashboard and presentation. How do you handle situation where a company's strict band color or indicator of bad and good metrics are notoriously not accessible?
Yeah.
Like a specific shade of red and green. Do
Yep.
you have advice for gently suggesting a more accessible palette to stakeholders who are emotionally attached to their brand and KPI colors?
Like my good friends at the Home Depot store. They want to have their orange everywhere. Use it minimally with white and black, and highlight things with the orange, and they'll be happy. They get their orange, but most of the screen is not orange. Same thing with colors. I taught at Ohio University, and their colors were green and white, and they wanted everything green and white. Well, green on a white background is really hard to see. Flip it around and put white on a green background, and it's easier. So same brand colors, but tweaking them. They would also use too light of a green. I'd say just darken that green to move it away from the white, and you can use those 2 colors in combination. Change the hue, change the saturation, make it easier to see. Again, I normally will get the question, well, what if I have to have 10 categories? Well, why? Why do they ask them why? Oh, I want to see the bottom 10%. Well, then show just the bottom 10%, and the other 90 can be in 1 color, not 9 colors that we're not looking at. We just want to see the top 10%. You can turn around their requirements into something you can use with less colors, stronger, a darker color and a lighter color to have that change in hue or saturation or contrast. Almost no situation is, yeah, this has to be bad for people who are colorblind, and you just have to accept it. No, we can always get around it, find a way around it.
I think that's also like one idea or advice could be like to try to find a colorblind on the top manager or something like that, and have him like as an excuse every time. That's what I used to do. Oh, you know, you have 2 members of the board of director that are colorblind, so I am doing this kind of concept for them. And usually you stop having like a pushback.
Yeah, with 200 folks looking at this, I guarantee you there were at least 50 folks that had trouble seeing some of those plates. And there are probably 50 folks who were never told that they had any color blindness.
Exactly.
You get a large enough crowd. When I teach 30 students, I always get one per class that never knew. Was glad we did that. I got one more thing. What about, oh, where am I? Come on. What about that dress? Remember that dress?
Ah, yes, that's true.
It went all over the internet. People said it was black and blue. Other people said it was white and gold. Oh, Doc, how can this be? Oh, I know exactly what happened here, folks. It had to do with the color around it. If it was very dark when you saw this dress and around it on your screen was dark, you saw it as blue and black. If it was very light out and you had lots of light colors around it, you saw it as white and gold, because again, the dress is here in the middle. People saw it as blue and black on that end. They saw it as white and gold on the other end when it was actually in the middle. Not really either one of those. But your brain is really an interesting thing. We could do a whole tug just on your brain, because once you see it, it's very hard for you to unsee it. And so once you saw it as blue and black, no matter what I show you to try and tell you it's not blue and black, even if I put the one up that's white and gold, you're still going to see it as blue and black, because your brain linked it and said, nope, that's blue and black, or saw it as white and gold. People had tons of arguments over this. It was fun to watch it on the internet. And I've been using it ever since then, because yeah, it has to do with color blindness. It has to do with your cones and rods, and whether you're seeing those colors correctly with light on them or dark. Light hue, dark hue makes you see things different. So it's really fun. I love these kind of examples. So again, find me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn, send me an email. The slide deck is out there. I love to come into organizations. I've gone into a lot of organizations and done this talk. And it's been fun. And I bring in professors for the day to come into my students and teach them other stuff as well, besides color blindness or color vision deficiency, as I should be calling it now, to take that stigma of blindness off of there. But I appreciate everybody staying all the way through and overtime. If you've got questions, want to play things, and like I said, check out Jim's blog. It's one of the better ones out there that I've seen. Lots of the stuff in a lot of these blogs are incorrect and drive me crazy. Jim's didn't drive me crazy. I just wanted to add, and one more thing, Jim, and one more thing. And so I told Jim, we'll do that, because it's been on my bucket list for a long time.
Thank you very much, Doc. That was very, very useful. And I will let Prasann conclude this red session.
Let me stop sharing. There we go.
Okay, great. So thank you so much again, Doc, and everyone for joining, having all those conversations. I can see the chat buzzing all around with so much interaction, so much conversation, and that's great. Actually, like I've seen many different events, but I can always see Antics TUG being so lovely, and woohoo for that. So thank you so much, everyone, and do join us next month for another session, another great Analytics TUG session. We already have great speakers out there, and we'll also share the links with all the presentations and everything, and do let us know if you need anything else as well. So thank you so much. Have a great day. Good night, wherever you're dialing in, and see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.